This is the Victory Sports Network's NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley, streaming live across all social media platforms, including X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and live on the Urban Edge Network. This program made possible each and every week, thanks to some very fine sponsors of ours. Those, of course, including our good friends at Huddle. Huddle provides VSN access to the biggest games on the NAIA stage each week. VSN just makes a request to the home team to receive access, and boom, we get full coaches video. Our good friends at Huddle. We get to break it down, get to see all the what happened on third down, man. We get to do all that. Also, NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley also streams on the Urban Edge Network. Urban Edge Network providing access to the best games in the NAIA each week. Download the app now via your app store and watch on your TV, phone, or tablet. Urban Edge Network is leading the way with access to NAIA events and championships. And as always, a reminder, the views expressed in this program, they are definitely from myself and Pat Donley. That's it. That's the list. They do not reflect the views of the NAIA or any of its member institutions. With that said, it's time for a show. Let's go!
NAIA football is the true version of what college football is supposed to be. And it is the best classroom experience an 18 to 22-year-old male can have. One of the most valuable parts of a college education is that experience. It's life in a microcosm, and it's just something special for a young man to have to experience.
And don't you let a moment go without thinking about what's there for you to reach out and grasp.
This is NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley. I am the aforementioned host of the show, Jason Dannelly. Thank you very much again for checking us out on a Sunday night. Each and every Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, you're going to find Pat and I right here talking about the world of NAIA football. Now, before I get the opportunity to bring Pat in, I want to take a little bit of time to run through a couple games and then bring Pat in to give his analysis as to what's going on there. Let's take a look around the NAIA at a couple of these games real quick, like Olivet Nazarene, Indiana Wesleyan. They go down to the wire in this one. Number 5, Indiana Wesleyan trailed in this game, ended up pulling this one away. Aaron Lothe, 20 for 34, 316 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Olivet Nazarene had the ball down at the 1-yard line late in the fourth quarter, could not punch it in. Grandview all over Baker. They got out 21-0, never looked back, gave up that score in the second quarter. Jackson Waring, 13 for 17, 231 yards. Pretty much exactly what he does. Couple touchdowns. Bryant Williams, 101 yards rushing, 89 yards receiving for him as well. So not a bad day. Primetime performer from those first games, Braxton Myers, 5 receptions, 121 yards and a touchdown for Indiana Wesleyan in the closely fought victory. Southeastern, they went to the wire against Faulkner, but pulled it out 26-19. Dethan Davis had a 59-yard pass from Nate Michael with $1:34 remaining to get that Southeastern University victory. 351 yards of total offense, 251 for Faulkner in the game. Number 2, Kaiser, maybe not as tested as we thought they might be on the road by Cumberlands. Jumped out to that 21-0 lead early. 415 yards of total offense. Jade Miller, 2 rushing touchdowns. Dallas D'Souza, 2 receiving touchdowns for the Seahawks in this one. Primetime performer, no surprise here, Shea Spencer, 19 of 30 for 222 yards, 3 touchdowns, ho-hum. That's just kind of what he does as a football quarterback for the Kaiser Seahawks. Midland, Morningside. Hey, this was within 10 late in the ball game, and then Morningside just kind of put their foot on the gas. Won this one 56-37. Max Huff, 104 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Drew Sellen, 130 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns, and Morningside's defense getting all over Midland with 6 sacks. Closely contested game that Pat and I are going to talk about here momentarily. Lindsey Wilson over Reinhardt, 35-27. Kia Sherrard, 98 yards receiving in this one. Lindsey Wilson actually outgained in this ball game. They did have some aid from special teams. Primetime performer, though, the running back for the Blue Raiders, Mr. Devontae Saunders, 22 carries again, 156 yards and a touchdown. He's been one heck of a ball player for the Blue Raiders this year. In the what the heck is happening news, Peru State and Central Methodist, what's going on there? 43 points. They were tied up in the fourth quarter before Peru State pulled away with this one. 655 yards for Peru State. Holy cow. Central Methodist, 485 yards. CJ Dixon, 536 yards passing, and he ran for over 100 yards. Just 7 touchdowns. Ho-hum. Ho-hum. Another key game from this week that we were talking about on last week's show, Carroll College, Dickinson State. We thought this one might be closer, might be tighter. Well, guess what? Saints pulled away with a big road victory here, 35-7. Carson Ochoa, 9 receptions, 96 yards, and a touchdown. But your primetime performer in that game, Caden Hewitt, 20 for 24, 205 yards passing, not bad, 2 touchdowns, but also a little bit of a Philly special, if you will, receiving touchdown for the quarterback in this one. And wrapping things up with some of our featured games before we bring in our esteemed co-host of this show, Briar Cliff beat Mount Marty. That's significant because last week Mount Marty beat Northwestern. Briar Cliff is now 3-1. They get the 34-20 victory. Holy cow. Nice game for Brock Saya. 191 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, 19 yards rushing, and a score. Montana Tech, all over Southern Oregon, 37-14 in this one. They did it throwing the ball. Jarrett Wilson, 321 yards in the air, 4 touchdowns. Levi Torgerson, he had himself a day. He's our primetime performance that we're going to talk about. 8 receptions, 222 yards, 4 touchdowns. Holy cow. What with that said, bring in my co-host, Mr. Pat Donnelly. Pat, we had ourselves some football games this weekend, and some that we thought were going to be a lot better than what they were, and they just kind of ended up making the opening segment this week.
Yeah, and then we talked about all these games like, well, this is like another football game. It became a really good football game. I'm going to say something. I'm in the Midwest. I guess you still are the Midwest in Fargo. But I'm going to call west of the Mississippi some craziness happened yesterday. A lot of crazy games that we've got to get into that are, to me, very surprising. I started seeing these scores pop. I go, are you kidding me? Teams that have had success the first 3 weeks of the season stubbed their toe. Teams that haven't scored a lot of points are scoring 60. We have a back-and-forth classic, I think, in my opinion, with Lindsey Wilson and Reinhardt. There's some really interesting games yesterday. St. Thomas really, handling Georgetown. A lot of games to talk about, some interesting ones, but certainly west of the Mississippi, just complete chaos yesterday.
Yeah, really there was. And we're going to break down, well, coming up on our featured game segment, we've got Evangel and McPherson, what went on there. We've got Georgetown and St. Thomas. And what am I missing? What am I missing in my head here, Pat? I got one more.
Lindsey Wilson, Reinhardt?
Mid-American Nazarene, William Penn. Yeah, we talked about, I brought up the Lindsey Wilson Reinhardt in the opening segment. What a game. And the only reason I didn't put that in the featured game is because it ended up not being an upset. I think if that's an upset, it comes into our featured game segment here. But it wasn't. And Lindsey Wilson down 24-14 and then rattles off 21 unanswered to come back in that game and get the victory. And, you watch Lindsey Wilson and, they honestly have blown people out early. And then they got tested in this game and came back and won. That's a pretty good sign for a championship caliber team.
Yeah, definitely resiliency without question. And they did it a lot of different ways. One, there was no panic. I will say that. I mean, they were really getting outplayed the first half. First off, I think Reinhardt is a talented group, Jason. I mean, you're talked about the last really 2 weeks, the talent that they have. And I think it's a good football team. And I think they've got to learn how to finish games, certainly, because they have tons of ability. There's no question about it. But like Lindsey Wilson, set themselves up for 2 huge scores on special teams returns. Kick return down inside the 20 led to a score. Punt return getting inside, near the red zone for another score, kind of got things going. And then the second half they come out, Lindsey Wilson, and very methodical, kind of chipped away at it, mixture of run and pass, smart with their quick game. took a couple shots when they needed to, some one-on-one opportunities, but I just loved their approach. There wasn't panic, kind of methodically, execute their offense, played strong defense. They did a nice job bottling the run up in the second half for the Blue Raiders, but really good football game. Two extremely talented teams, both of them. I think Lindsey Wilson, Jason, now watch them very, very closely from a roster and a talent standpoint. Pretty darn good. I mean, we played against that team the year they won the national championship back in 2018, 2019. Is that right? 2019?
No,
2020, excuse me, 2020.
We'll eventually say the right year. 2021, 2022.
No, it was the year before COVID,
yeah.
Wasn't it?
I think it was.
That right? 2019. No, I'm sorry, Jason. It was 2019.
2019, yeah.
Yeah, they beat us that year. And it was a top to bottom great roster. You could just see it. Defensive guys that really ran well, good cover guys, and they've got more of the same. They're kind of work in progress, maybe a little bit at quarterback, but the young man that played yesterday was very efficient. But talented teams, both of them. And Lindsey Wilson here's an undefeated team rolling right along. It was a big victory yesterday on the road.
I was looking around, and I think I threw you off because you're talking about Reinhardt. You're talking about Reinhardt, this team from the Appalachian Athletic Conference that's 1-3 right now. And gosh, they got a lot of talent. And God, we really got to look out for them. And this almost like we had this conversation last year about Pikeville. And now this year we're having it about Reinhardt. And and I still think Pikeville is a quality football team.
Mm-hmm.
They're currently winless. I look at what Reinhardt and Pikeville have got and throw the record out the window. One of those teams is going to run roughshod through the Appalachian Athletic Conference. Whoever wins that game, I'm thinking ends up being the conference champion. And they're going to get into the postseason and they're going to play somebody. And we're going to have the same conversation where some fan, no offense, fans, one of you is going to go 6-5, 5-5. Why are they even in the postseason? And then they will beat you. They are a very talented football team, and credit to those teams for putting good football teams on their schedule and focusing then on what they're going to do in conference play and making sure that they're going to be the best team possible, because we're going to have that same situation in the AAC. Because honestly, from what I have seen from non-conference games in that conference, there's not a better team than Pikeville or Reinhardt in that league.
Without question, there'll be a nightmare for anyone in round one. I don't care who it is. Either one of those teams gets in.
Yeah, and then elsewhere from our games that weren't featured that we kind of skimmed through, Montana Tech, Southern Oregon, Gunnar Yates not playing in this game. The Southern Oregon, to their credit, they put a lot of emphasis into stopping Montana Tech's run. And for the most part, they shut down that high-powered running game that the Orediggers have. Problem is, the Orediggers said, we can throw the ball too now. And this is a perfect setup, I think, for Tech, where they're bringing in an inexperienced quarterback into their system. They ran the ball like dogs the first couple of games, and now they got that guy. They got Wilson comfortable, and now here they are going in their fourth game, and now they kind of turn them loose, throwing the football. They've done a very good job, I think, developing that quarterback position and bringing him on progressively week after week.
Well, I can tell you, Jason, Coach Sampson knows how to move the football. He's the type of coach, being an offensive coach, will take what the defense gives him. That's so cliched, I know. But again, if there's more bodies in the box, Jason, again, you can tell the Orediggers want to run the football. They have the last handful of years and with this staff. But if there's numbers that are not advantageous in the box, you have to take your shots. You have to take what's available. And I know Coach Sampson has that ability as a great play caller and offensive mind. He's going to take what's available, and you can see the passing game. If that's what's presented and you have the ability and scheme to do that and go execute it, and you do, that's a tough team to prepare for, because you can't just take one option away. You've got to play, probably more of a too high set or person or too high back end alignment, and maybe get more run support with safeties as opposed to bringing guys down in the box because they can throw it in behind you or whatever it may be. Montana Tech has that ability of being that balanced team. And if you're going to take something away, they're going to kill you with the other element, whether it's the run game or pass if you load the box up.
All right, let's get into some of our featured games that we were talking about this week. That is not the right there we go. That's the one we wanted, Pat. Let's get into our featured games. Georgetown and St. Thomas. This was a game that, I bring up and ended up being St. Thomas really controlled this football game for the most part. I keep it as a featured game because I think St. Thomas was able to do some things in this game that really brought them a couple steps forward from where they were last week in that loss to Lindsey Wilson.
Yeah, we kind of thought this might happen.
Yeah.
I think Georgetown's a work in progress, Jason. I know they're number 6 in the nation. I understand that, with previous accomplishments a year ago and things of that nature. I think they're a work in progress. I think this is going to be some growing pains in certain spots. Got to take care of the football better. The turnovers really hurt Tigers in this game. And I thought St. Thomas played a pretty efficient game overall. I think their defense flies around, makes a lot of plays. I mean, I thought their secondary in particular with those interceptions were very opportunistic and getting the football back for St. Thomas and creating great field position opportunities for their offense. So that's what I saw yesterday is really very aggressive defense and making a ton of plays and getting the ball back for their offense. But yeah, again, I think Georgetown's got some things that they got to work on and develop here the next few weeks as they get into conference play here shortly. And I think they can still make a great run at the conference championship and the automatic qualifier, certainly, or at the at-large. I mean, there's 3 really good teams in that league, Jason. There's no question about it. And they're one of them. And they're going to have an opportunity to play the other 2. And we'll see what happens. But, I think they've got some things to work on. Certainly, they're young in spots. And I think St. Thomas, certainly put their best game together this week in this game yesterday, and something to build on for the future. Now, as they get into conference play, which Kaiser, I think, is 2 weeks away, Jason, so the big game coming up in the Sun Conference here as we get into conference play.
The big thing I thought for St. Thomas in this game was the establishment of a run game. They started to run the football a little better. We really have not seen them run the ball well, and I wouldn't say they ran the ball outstanding this week, but you're seeing the development now. Draylon Martin, 22 carries, 92 yards. That's a real good step forward for St. Thomas, especially in a bounce back week coming off the loss. They've got some more weeks to kind of get right and then get into their conference play and then really start, potentially making that push for postseason qualification. They've got some things that they've got to get, better at too. But I thought what their game plan was for Georgetown this year in the regular season, where they played them in the postseason last year and lost. I thought the game plan and the dudes were there for them to match up and get this victory a little bit better. And they held down Georgetown's offense, just 272 yards of total offense. I think if there's an improvement, obviously, for Georgetown, their defense, they gave up 26 points, but only 309 total yards. I feel like Georgetown's progression this year is going to have to be with their offense and being able to create some big plays that they have not been able to get so far this year. And some of that, when you're replacing an All-American running back, you're going to have some growing pains. Heck, I mean, this is the game that is exactly that. 2 programs that are replacing All-American running backs from last year, trying to find their way and trying to see is the run game going to be an identity for us this year, or do we have to come up with something else?
Yeah, maybe a lot of pressure on Slonaker, Jason. There was just a lot of pressure on him. Again, not having that established runner in the backfield puts a lot more pressure on your veteran quarterback. And, there were some plays made in that secondary for the Bobcats that, created those opportunities in short fields for the St. Thomas offense. So, yeah, a lot more pressure. It's an old cliche again, the old ball coach here. Running game is the quarterback's best friend. And like you said, that is a bit of a challenge here for the Tigers. It has been.
Primetime performance from the game. I'm going to give it to Draylon Martin. 22 carries for 92 yards. Now, some of you out there might be saying, what's this primetime performance? This is a new thing we're doing. And I'll talk a little bit about it here. So Draylon Martin, 22 carries, 92 yards. That's never going to win National Player of the Week. And I think the NAIA does a fantastic job getting all the nominations from all the conferences and then selecting a National Player of the Week. And that's the person that gets the headline at the end of the week. But I think in so many of these big games, we're not talking about the dudes that won the big game, because statistically they don't come back out with 500-yard passing game and win National Player of the Week, and they kind of get forgotten. I want to make sure we're spotlighting those guys every week. Who were the primetime performances that helped win football games? And Draylon Martin with St. Thomas University, I kind of feel like he's the one that we give it to in this game. We rolled to the nightcap last night. This game got long. We had a weather delay early on, and I felt like in many ways and I watched the entire first half. You could have just thrown the first half out. They started playing. They had the weather delay. Anytime you come back from that, things are a little bit choppy. Second half, both teams came out ready to play, and I think we really saw a football game in this one, Pat. Evangel ran the football really well a week ago on Saturday. They got bottled up this week, and they definitely did not run the football the way that they did against Southwestern, and that showed just, I think, how advanced and how good McPherson's defense might be. McPherson this year has given up 7 points, 7 points, 7 points, and 10 points. It's pretty good, especially going up against an Evangel team that put up 35 last week against Southwestern. I felt like they had, Reed Potts maybe second guessing some of his throws. He was 26 for 41 for 232 yards, but he wasn't able to make a big play. He wasn't able to get things deep. And, McPherson was able to grind out this victory with the help of a defensive touchdown that we'll talk here in a little bit. Pat, your thoughts on this one?
McPherson, probably maybe the most surprising 4-0 team, undefeated team at this point, maybe nationally. And they're doing a great defense. Again, talk about old school football, win championships with defense, and they're 4-0 and have beaten good football teams. We sung Evangel's praises a week ago in their performance against a good, what was last year a playoff team in Southwestern. This is a big time win for McPherson, Jason. Because I think, again, watching Evangel in Southwestern a week ago, I really think Evangel played, first of all, a tremendous game, a physical game, and I think that might have had some effect on this game. Just kind of the wear and tear on the ice. Really physical game last week, and I think it's tough to put 2 games in a row like that against physical defenses. I'm talking more the offensive approach against a strong defense. So I think that may be part of it too. But you've got to obviously give tons of credit to the Bulldog defense, which, I mean, again, like you said, against quality football teams, holding people under 2 scores. I mean, or 2 scores or under. And that is tremendous. And Evangel's a good football team. I'm anxious to see where they go from here. But McPherson, obviously, you have to pay close attention to. We're seeing a lot of that, Jason. Those teams that are kind of just on the outside of the top 25 are now knocking off some of these top 25 teams, or teams that are, numbers 20 through 25, knocking off the top 10. We're having a lot more of that this year. And again, we talk about it in the preseason previews that we've got tons of parity, tons of depth in this affiliation. And we're seeing that every single week. It seems like some of these teams, really making a name for themselves.
Yeah. In the chat, I got a question. So is McPherson now a ranked team? So it'll be interesting. In my top 25 little preview for Monday morning when mine comes out, because it will post on the victorysportsnetwork.com at 4 a.m. for all you early folks that are out there. They will be in my top 25. The coaches' top 25, it will depend who drops out, if they've got a couple spots available, and what they decide to do in the KCAC. Because in the KCAC, I'll talk about a little bit more here in a bit. Kansas Wesleyan is also 4-0, and McPherson's 4-0. So where is that Raider going to put those teams? Are they going to say K-Dub is better than McPherson? Because if so, then K-Dub will go in. If they say McPherson is better than K-Dub, then I think McPherson's going to go. I think McPherson gets in because of this victory. Kansas Wesleyan has not beaten a team that has been in the top 25 this year. That's no fault of theirs. It's just how the schedule works out. So I think you have to reward teams that are playing and beating teams in the top 25 now, because it'll work itself out. If McPherson loses to Kansas Wesleyan in a couple weeks, well, then they won't be rated anymore, and K-Dub will. So I think that's, when you look at the coaches' top 25, what will work out here. I do want to talk a little bit about Jaleel Brown, 21 carries, 128 yards and a touchdown. Great performance by him in this football game to get that offensive touchdown, because without it, it would have been tough. And then you go to Kenneth Ray on the defense for McPherson, 7 tackles, a half tackle for loss, a fumble recovery for a 22-yard touchdown in this game. The big man, as Boomer would say. That was a terrible impersonation, by the way. But he got in, and defensive touchdown ends up being the difference in this game for McPherson to get this victory.
Yeah, and I honestly, Jason, from a rating standpoint, I would not punish Evangel too much.
Yeah.
I still think they're in that cusp where they're just on the outside of the top 25. They're not terribly far. They're still receiving votes, certainly. I think they're a good football team. I do.
There's such a logjam of football teams that easily could be 18 through 40. I mean, right now there's just a bunch of teams in that gap right now, and Evangel's there. I mean, it's almost like rank the top 15 and then rank like the next 20 teams after that you think are there, because I really feel like spots 15, I would probably say 15 through 35 in the NAI right now. They're all pretty good. We're still trying to figure out what's going on there. It's still very early in the season. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't discount Evangel for this loss. I mean, it was defensive battle they had at home, kind of some weird weather circumstances. They're coming off a physical game from Southwestern. I'm sounding like an apologist for them now, and I don't mean to, but I'm just saying there's a lot of things that happened in this game that if it's played a week later, maybe it's a different outcome. McPherson fans are going to say, no, we would beat them too. But yeah, that's just where we are in the world of football. So we'll put a pin in this one. The primetime performance in this game, you got to give it to Kenneth Ray on the defense. Defensive touchdown, fumble recovery for a touchdown. Kenneth Ray, primetime performance, helping get the Bulldogs to a victory in this one. Our next featured game, I think this was technically, this was the nightcap. This was the latest game I watched. And man, it was a good one. Mid-American Nazarene and William Penn duking it out. And we said coming into this game, Mid-American Nazarene better watch out. Even though they're rated number 12, this is a very good William Penn team that's out to get some respect. And, Penn was able to get control of this football game and come away with that victory, 34-31. An excellent performance by the Statesmen at home. This was a fun one to watch last night, Pat.
Absolutely. I thought William Penn was tremendous in their balance offensively, running pass.
Yes.
I mean, you could see the production. I mean, nearly 500 yards. Such balance run and pass. I tell you what, Jason, they play physical, they play fast, they play extremely hard. Watching this game, and I've coached against William Penn in that stadium. It's a community stadium, but you could see there was a great energy there. You could see like there was the students were out in droves and supporting this team because they're a 4-0 team. I just said McPherson's probably the most surprising 4-0 team, and maybe William Penn's right there with them. It's pretty darn close. And they play good football, Jason. This was a great game, truly back and forth. But at the end, I mean, it just seemed like William Penn just wanted even more. It was a home game, just played so hard and physical, throughout the entirety of the game. And it's really a great game to watch. I thought this and the Reinhardt-Lindsey Wilson game, the two best games yesterday. But this one was a darn good football game. And both teams, I thought, played very well. Again, William Penn just, found a way in the end to pull it out. So, great football game.
Yeah, it really was. I've been really impressed with how Mark Benavidez has developed the William Penn program the last couple of years. This is a William Penn program that 15 years ago was at its height. Then they had consecutive winning seasons, and then just kind of the little bit of this, the little bit of the leveling out and around 500 and consecutive losing seasons. I think they're at 7. Now they're sitting at 4-0 with an opportunity to break that losing season streak, and an impressive run early. When I was looking preseason schedule wise for William Penn and kind of thinking about how they would do, I felt like they'd probably be 2-2 right now with losses to Baker and Mid-American Nazarene. I felt like they would be an improved program, but they'd be sitting 500 right now. And surprising everybody, probably that is outside of the city of Oskaloosa, Iowa, that they're 4-0 right now. I think this team plays with a lot of confidence. And you know me, Pat, like where you and I differ, and we would have like the grumpy old men conversation would be around passing teams versus running teams. And I just look at William Penn like they're running the football. You got Destin Loring, 33 carries, 178 yards. Like I love football teams that have a physical run identity. And the Loring kid has played very well this year. They've been going to him a lot, and the next step that my brain takes is, okay, what else are they going to be able to develop around him? Because if you run him 30 to 35 carries a game for the rest of the season, by the end of the season, I don't care how physically tough you are, it's going to wear on you. And you don't want to have that dip late in the season when the games really mean something if you're trying to get to the postseason.
I get accused of being a passing game guy, which I certainly was as a coach. That was really my thing. But I love balance. I really do. I mean, there's nothing better than, complementary play action to a great running game. And then if you have the ability, again, like we talked about Montana Tech, a kind of similar thing here with Mid-American Nazarene, brought a lot of guys in the box as the run, had more successful for William Penn. Then they had some opportunities on the perimeter. So, I love that balance and offenses that are flexible enough and have the ability to take what's available and take their shot plays if the box is loaded up. So, From that standpoint, I love balance. And again, having the ability of executing both phases of offensive football is an important thing to me to win championships, whether at the conference level and certainly at the national level. You have to have that balance. You can't just be. It's tough, and again, we talk about friends, being the run attack and all that. If that's balled up in any way, shape, or form, you have to have the ability to have the other elements. So, that's been my philosophy at least, and I think so many others. But you can see these teams having that ability to take what's available.
Yeah, I do want to say one more thing and then ask you a question about this game. Sterling Ramsey was out for 2 games also of this 4-0 run. I mean, he did start against William Woods, but then went out after the first drive, did not play against Central Methodist, and then came back against Baker and then this. So he's back, obviously healthier, 3 interceptions in this game. So good to see kind of the upperclassman senior quarterback back leading the Statesman. But we've talked a lot about the Statesman, Pat, but we haven't talked much about number 12 Mid-American Nazarene in this breakdown. What do you see from the Pioneers in this game? I've felt like what we've seen the last couple of years from their offense, high powered, high flying, ball up and down the field. We didn't see that as much in this game.
Yeah, more methodical. I felt like they were just trying to play catch up a lot, and they hung in there. I'm not saying they did. Obviously, look at the final score, and they outscored William Penn the second half. At the same time, it just felt like they were a step behind most of the game. I just thought William Penn controlled the play from a physicality standpoint, the balance of what they were doing offensively. With that being said, I think Mid-American Nazarene has some nice players. I think they can do some good things. I'm not sure they're the type of guys up front that are just going to blow you off the ball. I think they have to have balance for their success and working the perimeter as much as they can. I think the Gonzalez kid's a nice player on the perimeter. I think they've got some good players. But I think balance is key for them as well. I just don't think they can line up and just pound, the running game over and over again. I just don't see that with them.
Yeah.
William Penn, I think can. They're pretty balanced. And I think Ramsey is a physical runner as well. I mean, he could do some things, in the running game as well as throwing it. So, we're talking about Mid-American Nazarene. But I think it's a good football team. And time will tell. I mean, here we are. They're a top 12 team, and they're obviously going to drop this week. But they're going to have plenty of opportunity to get back into contention in the Hart Conference for sure, no doubt.
100%. Primetime performance from this game, William Penn's Destin Loring, no surprise here, 33 carries, 178 yards, also had 3 receptions for 51 yards and a touchdown. Actually did not have a rushing touchdown in this game with those 178 yards, but great performance by Destin Loring. He's been a workhorse for him all season long, and as long as he stays healthy, he'll continue to be. So that gives us this opportunity now to kind of get into a full top 25 breakdown brought to you by McDonald's. The top 5 here, the one that we didn't really hit on much, and I ran through it in the first segment, Indiana Wesleyan and Olivet Nazarene. Now, in the back of my head, we know Olivet Nazarene, quality football program. I just kind of felt like Indiana Wesleyan would be a step or two ahead of them, and we'd see this as a 49-27 final score. But Olivet Nazarene, man, to their credit, they hung in there with them, and they're down to the 1-yard line with right about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Couple opportunities, and they weren't able to punch it in. I mean, that's how close they were to knocking off Indiana Wesleyan in this one.
To give credit to Olivet, no question. I mean, they beat Taylor, in week 1. They're a good football team. And I think time will tell again in the Mid-States West how things will shake out. They're going to get an opportunity at St. Francis, both St. Francis's and Marion. They're going to get a crack at them coming down the pike here. Good football team, obviously hanging in with one of the best programs we have seen the last handful of years in Indiana Wesleyan. Jason, I wonder if Indiana Wesleyan's almost like opposite of where they were the last couple of years, where maybe it's a slow build as they, kind of develop some key spots, both up front, offensively and defensively, and quarterback play. Maybe it's more of a slow build to a crescendo at the end of the year as opposed to vice versa, where they were just coming out like gangbusters the last 2 years and just blowing great teams out. Maybe this is a good test for them to show some resiliency and having, a goal line stand to hold off a very, very good feisty Olivet Nazarene team, something they can build on. Because I tell you what, it's not going to get any easier. They're going to have Marion coming in, or they're going to Marion this Saturday. And that's going to really, to me, we're going to talk about previews for next week, that's going to be a very telling game for both of those teams and where they are right now.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. Like it's a game I'm really looking forward to because I don't really know where Marion is, and honestly, I don't really know where Indiana Wesleyan is. Like they took Kaiser to the brink, but then they're getting pushed by Olivet Nazarene, and I'm 100% with you on IWU. I feel like that program. If you said, hey, we're going to make you get tested a lot more in the regular season than what you have in the last 3 years, but the benefit will be at least one or maybe two postseason victories. They'd say we'll sign up for that. We'll even take a regular season loss for a couple more wins in the postseason because obviously that's what matters. And you can wear a nice little badge on your chest saying we were the best 10-0 team in NAIA football 2 years in a row. But guess what? Past that, it didn't really matter. Spot 6 through 10, game that we didn't talk about. Friends beat up on Tabor 59-15, and Montana Western over Rocky Mountain. That game was tight early, and then Montana Western pulled away in it. You had mentioned last week, Tabor being ready for Friends, and I felt like, I watched a little bit of that game schematically. We're there. Friends has just got some dudes on that team, and a lot of dudes that can run the football.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think the role of Mike Garner, but yeah, there's no matter how good the scheme is, if you're outgunned personnel wise, and I think Friends is really, really difficult to deal with, no question. And I'm anxious to see that game come up too with Evangel. That's going to be really interesting. Evangel has to go out and play another physical team. So yeah, kind of crazy. The points that the Friends is putting up as a triple option team, but they're getting it done, Jason, and they are a juggernaut in the run game.
Moving on, spots 11 through 15. This is where we saw a little bit of the shakeup. You got Dickinson State losing to Carroll. You got Mid-American Nazarene losing to William Penn. Southeastern getting tested by Faulkner. And then St. Thomas beating Georgetown, and then Northwestern blanking Dakota Wesleyan. A little bit of a shakeup here. So you're obviously going to see Dickinson and Mid-American Nazarene both drop. Southeastern didn't do themselves a lot of favors to move up in the rankings. So I wouldn't be surprised to see St. Thomas leapfrog over them with the victory over the number 6 team, even though I've watched both these teams. And I think if they played today, I probably think Southeastern wins that football game. Pat, what do you think?
It'd be a coin flip in my opinion, Jason. I think they're both are strong. I think the St. Thomas team we saw yesterday versus the Southwestern team that beat, my goodness, 2 weeks ago. Who was the big game last week, Jason? Sorry, Reiner. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I thought that was a great Southeastern performance. I like to see those versions go head to head, and it's a coin flip. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I probably would pick Southeastern, or maybe even the home team, whoever that is.
Yeah,
who the home team's going to be in that matchup. I think they're right there neck and neck. I think Kaiser's probably a step ahead of both, but I think those two are pretty close to one another, and that's going to be obviously a huge matchup coming up later in the season.
Spots 16 through 20, not a whole lot happening here. I mean, Campbellsville beats Thomas of Georgia as expected. Ottawa, Arizona went into the Oklahoma Panhandle and put it on the Aggies. And this was a game I said last week, hey, keep your eye on this one. The Aggies could come out. They could be physical. This could happen. Wrong. 56-10 wrong is how wrong I was. So I will take my when I'm definitely wrong. And I was wrong on this one. Ottawa looked really good. Texas Wesleyan, it probably seemed like a great idea a year ago to schedule the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, a brand new first-year program in the FCS. It's a Texas FCS program, and they've been doing this to everybody so far. They'll get challenged when they start playing FCS opponents, but this was a game, again, a year ago or whenever Texas Wesleyan actually scheduled this. Probably seemed like a great idea. Not so much of a great idea yesterday, as Texas Wesleyan actually, quick edit on that, they are 1-2 now to start this season.
Yeah. Tough one. Those guys can play down there, man. And the transfer portal, I'm sure, hey, new program, you're a Division I school, go to an FCS school that's starting, you can play right. Yeah, they got some dudes, I'm sure.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of that game, just probably 4 or 5 minutes of the stream. And yeah, they got FCS facility, they got all the things there. So I think you'll see Texas Wesleyan drop a spot or two. Just because it was such a big loss, and now they're sitting at 1-2. You put the coaches in a tough spot, and even myself a tough spot in the poll to say, oh, hey, we're just going to keep this team that's now 1-2 where they're at. They'll stay in the top 25. But don't be surprised if you see the coaches drop them like 21 or 22, something like that. And then we had some shakeup here, spots 21 through 25. Obviously, Evangel with the loss, Southern Oregon with the loss. I would foresee both those teams falling out of the NAIA coaches top 25, which means there's probably going to be 2 spots open for somebody to come in into the rankings here.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think Carroll on the rise.
Yep.
Big time win yesterday against Dickinson. I mean, especially, a 4-score victory. I mean, that's significant in my opinion. Yeah. Again, we watched Dickinson the week before, win a big ball game and against Valley City. And yeah, Carroll came out and beat them by 4 touchdowns. That's quite significant.
Yeah, that's huge. And Carroll's getting the quarterback play going. I mean, they've got a first-year starter for him this year for the first time in, I think, 4 years. I think Jack Perk has started all 4 years for the Saints. And so, it's tough just to have a guy come in game 1 and be a world beater. That's odd. If you can get him a couple games, get under his, get things going under his belt here. And I think, you got a long road trip like Dickinson. Helena to Dickinson is not just it is a jaunt just down the road. You just get on I-94 and just go forever. But this gives you an opportunity, have a little adversity, have a little road climate, and now they're going to go play Rocky Mountain this week. Hey, significant thing about that Rocky game this week. Some details. They are going to be celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Carroll College 4-peat in Helena this weekend. They're having a banquet. They're doing the whole thing. They're bringing the old players. I actually got invited to go to it, but I've got some things going on in the old, personal life here where it's like, I can't pull off a 12-hour trip to Helena because I would have to drive there. It's not easy. I mean, it's not cheap either to fly from Fargo to Helena because you got to go through Denver or Minneapolis. But celebration this week in Carroll, that 20-year anniversary. They're working on a documentary for it. It's cool stuff that they're pulling together. And I only know that because they interviewed me for the documentary for some reason. So you might,
no big deal.
Well, I think they're like, who from a national scene can we get? Oh yeah. Dannelly was out here a bunch. Just throw him on the camera.
I didn't get my invitation, Jason, because I was directly involved with some of those 4-peats, the 4-peats. So yeah, I didn't get my invitation. Those guys are awesome guys,
Yeah.
Sucks losing to them, but they were really good dudes. So
yeah, it's one of those like 2 weeks later. It's like, I just want to absolutely hate those guys, but
I want to hate them, but I can't. How do you hate Mike Van Diest? How do you hate Tyler Emmert? How do you hate Hoagie? I mean, they're just the greatest people in the world. They're just awesome folks, man.
Howlett, all those guys.
Oh, Nick Howlett's awesome, dude. Yeah, those guys are the best.
I should, I'll bring us up here. It was so fun when they were interviewing me because the interview that they did for the documentary, they probably took an hour and a half probably. Okay. And they're asking me questions and it was like this area of my brain, like, you have the vault and you see the and the dust is coming off. I think that was this area in the back of my brain because I just started going like, oh yeah, this guy, and then this guy, and then this guy coach, and then this guy, the Peterson kid at wide receiver, and Mark Catlick, this, and just all these names coming up. And I was like, wow, this is all from 20 years ago, but there's so many things in my day-to-day life, you ask me, I couldn't remember. Would like no clue whatsoever. So anyway, looking forward to that for them.
Yeah, quite the dynasty, and they were, Jason, as good as there's ever been. Maybe outside of Texas A&I, probably was number 2.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah. Probably. The wait what segment. Kansas Wesleyan's 4-0. William Penn's 4-0. Briar Cliff is 3-1. Things that I would not. Well, Kansas Wesleyan, I might have said would have been 4-0 at this point. Definitely not William Penn being 4-0. Definitely not Briar Cliff being 3-1. And Briar Cliff with a huge victory over Mount Marty yesterday in the Catholic Cup. The Catholic Cup. Is it a chalice? I didn't get a good look at it. Like the Ark of the Covenant, it's a Carpenter's Cup. I don't. Sorry.
McPherson's 4-0.
Yeah, McPherson's 4-0. That one's less of a wait what.
Right.
I didn't put it on here because we talked a lot about that game.
Sure.
We did about William Penn too, but yeah, McPherson 4-0 as well. The other one that is a little surprising, not on this list. They're 2-2 now, but Arkansas Baptist is 2-2. They were 2-1 going into this weekend. That's huge for that program. I was fully expecting that program to be over this year. And hey, 2 wins. Real nice for them.
I have a question for you. Of the teams that we knew would be top 25-esque, Rocky Mountain, excuse me, Freudian. They're playing Rocky Mountain. Montana Tech or Lindsey Wilson? Who's had a more impressive run thus far?
Lindsey Wilson. I think
Yeah,
Lindsey Wilson, because
I would agree.
they I don't think many people were thinking of them better than third in the conference. I think people looked at the preseason schedule and said, Texas Wesleyan's going to go out there and beat them. Oh, what are they doing? Scheduling St. Thomas. St. Thomas is going to go up there and beat them. And they've won both those games. And the only reason I say it's more impressive than Montana Tech is maybe because of the most recent early success that Montana Tech has seemed to have, every single season. And what Tech has done has been thoroughly impressive as well. But keep in mind, Montana Tech preseason was in the top 15. I think they were preseason number 11. So maybe less impressive, but still very impressive by the Orediggers and very impressive by Lindsey Wilson and what they've done to get themselves into the top 10. Heck, they'll move into the top 10. I think of the coaches poll this week.
No question. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think both have had unbelievable victories, but I think Lindsey Wilson, on the road, I think that game yesterday was really challenging because I think, Reinhardt gave them everything they could handle and threw haymakers early in that game and took a 2-score lead. And Lindsey Wilson just figured out a way to win the game. And they gave some special teams, then methodical offense and bottling up run game in the second half and gave the ball back, some 3-and-outs and things like that. So I agree with you, but I'm not going to. We've got to recognize, I think, Rocky Mountain. Or I keep saying Rocky Mountain. Why do I keep saying Rocky Mountain? I'm thinking Rocky Mountain, Montana Tech, and the mountains. So sorry. They're both green, aren't they? Yeah, they're green.
Greenish. Yeah.
More green. Yeah. Green and gold Rocky Mountain than Orediggers are the copper and green. And
copper green. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Montana Tech, beating Montana Western, going to Southern Oregon. I mean, there's some quality wins there too. But those two, to me, have had just an unbelievable resume thus far early in the season.
Yeah, sustain it now. Got to sustain it. It's a long season. You've sprinted out to the lead of the marathon here. Congratulations. Now, stay with the front of the pack here. As a guy that's never ran more than 2 miles makes a marathon reference. That's beautiful, isn't it? The Victory Sports Network Top 25 poll comes out tomorrow morning, as I mentioned, at 4:00. Brought to you by McDonald's. Make sure you check that out. I've got some changes. I've got a couple new entries in there. I had to drop a team about 10 spots in the Victory Sports Network NAI Top 25. So I'll be checking that out tomorrow. All right. Game week. Everybody's playing Saturday this week. We don't have any Thursday games yet. I think next week we're going to get some Thursday games, but we've got a slew of great NAI football games that we've already talked a little bit about here, Pat, that we need to get into. I really land on these 6 games right here being the best ones. I think there's 5 extremely strong games. The 6th game I've got on here, maybe I want to see what's going to happen. And then naturally, there's always going to be 2 or 3 that we don't mention here that you're going to yell at us and say, oh, how come you didn't think of this one? Well, because I'm not that smart, ladies and gentlemen. I do think it really starts up top there. I'll eventually say the 2 that I think are going to be the best games here. But Indiana Wesleyan, Marian University, this is a big game because it's going to tell us a lot. Well, it's not, I don't know a lot, but it's going to tell us more about these 2 great programs and where they stand to start the NAI season.
Yeah, it's strange. They're separated by 40 miles. It's a non-conference game still.
Yeah.
So this is East and West, which is odd to me still, but it is, even though they've been a rival since the inception of the Indiana Wesleyan program. I'm with you. I don't know what we have with both. I think they're both really good. I'm not saying, that one is down and the other one's on the rise or vice versa. But I think it's going to be very telling to where they both are currently. They've been challenged already, played some very good teams. Obviously, both have a loss. Indiana Wesleyan loses in a close game to Kaiser, the national runner-up a year ago. Marian gets blown out really by a very, very good playoff level team in the University of Indianapolis, Division II level. So what do we have here? I don't know. I think they're both playoff level teams in our affiliation, but I think we're going to know a lot more when they do battle on Saturday of kind of how that turns out. And I think whoever comes out on top, Jason, says that, this is a team in this region of the NAI is going to be one of the top dogs.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with your assessment on that one. Going just to the other side of that, you've got Evangel at Friends. This is 3 really big games, 3 weeks in a row for Evangel. Southwestern, McPherson, and now they have to go to Friends to play a very physical, very shifty run style offense, and a defense that's played extremely well this year too. So as you get into this game, you have to wonder, what is the tank of the Valor going to look like? Is it going to be full come Saturday? Is it going to be 3/4? Is it going to be half tank? What are these guys going to come in and play with on Saturday? And if they're juiced up and ready, just the way that they've played defense in their last couple of games with Southwestern, and especially last week against McPherson, really limiting, what the Bulldogs were able to do offensively when they've gone out all season, put up a ton of points. That is going to be what will make the difference in this game, is what Evangel's going to do defensively against Friends. If they can stand up to them, take some shots in the mouth, keep pushing on them, and make that offensive and defensive line a dogfight, it is going to be a heck of a game come Saturday. Or are we going to find out that Friends is maybe head and shoulders above what is in the rest of the KCAC? We won't know. Friends really hasn't played the upper tier of the KCAC so far, but we've seen what this program can do in big time situations. This could be the start of chaos. The KCAC likes to do this every year. You get some teams that are undefeated, and then all of a sudden we start chaos. McPherson beats Evangel beats Friends beats Kansas West. It's just everybody beats everybody, and at the end of the year we're going, okay, who's actually the conference champion? This could be the start of chaos. But it will be interesting in the KCAC to see what happens. What else is on the screen there that's piquing your interest? Do you have some thoughts on this one?
Well, I'm looking forward to Evangel 3 weeks in a row, like you said. Yeah. I think if they had maybe a lesser opponent they beat up on, like Friends just scored 60, I would feel better about this matchup. I am nervous because here's the thing, Jason. Yes, it's physical going against a triple option. It is physical, but it's physical in a different way. Because you have to execute defensively. It's assignment football. You have to be so specific and dot I's and cross T's of assignment-based defense. And again, you just got 2 physical games. You lost a tough one, this week, and you gotta get ready for triple option. My goodness, and assignment-based, and make sure we are so detailed in our execution. It's going to be tough. And I think Friends, if they continue with what they've been doing and can do the same to a team like Evangel, who's a physical team, that's going to be eye-opening in a lot of ways. But at the same time, like you said, Evangel, if they can really muster up some physicality, get some bodies healed up, that sort of thing, and have a great game plan for that option scheme, they have the ability of doing it because they're good on defense. And we've talked about it a couple of weeks now. So I'm anxious to see that one. I think it's a very interesting game, to answer your question. Other ones, yeah, all of them. I think they're all great. I mean, I think, how does Dickinson State respond with a great Montana Western team? Dordt Northwestern. Who else is going to be in the GPAC that's going to be making a push? We know Morningside's probably the top dog. Okay, who's after that? There's a couple people a couple teams in contention for that. So, all of them there's intrigue, certainly.
Yeah, I really look at that Dordt Northwestern game, and I'll talk about the other ones here in a second. But I look at Dordt Northwestern. Dordt, if memory serves, Dordt has never beat Northwestern. Short history of Dordt's program. They haven't, been around for 30 years. But if memory serves, I don't think Dordt has ever beat Northwestern. And this is a rivalry, and this is a sort of a weekend that Dordt has an opportunity to make a statement, go on the road, get that victory in just 20 miles. I think it's about 20 miles down the road from Sioux Center to Orange City. So this is a statement game for the defenders. And I was not big on Dordt to start the season. I've watched them week over week, and I've thought, okay, I was probably wrong. Fine with admitting that, but this is a week that you can prove me wrong. Defenders, prove me wrong. Prove me that you're better than 4th or maybe 5th in the conference. Prove that you're going to be the one that's going to compete with Morningside this year. And this is the week that they obviously are going to get that opportunity to do that. Dickinson, hey, tough loss to Carroll. You got to bounce back. You're going to play one of the best ones in the NAIA in Montana Western. Long road trip out to Dillon. You got to see how the Blue Hawks are going to respond, because Dickinson, if you look at it, they're rated 11th coming into this last weekend. They're going to drop. Coaches will drop them 17, 18, something like that, probably maybe 19. If they lose again to Montana Western, they're probably out of the top 25. And you might say, well, that's unfair. They lost to 2 top 25 teams. I think coaches will understand if Dickinson has lost to Carroll and Montana Western, that's not going to bode well for them with Montana Tech, who they still have to play this season. And we're probably potentially looking for somebody else in that east side of the Frontier Conference to step up into that number 2 spot. So it will be very interesting to see how the Blue Hawks respond this week. Staying in the Frontier Conference, College of Idaho, Montana Tech. We haven't talked about College of Idaho a lot this year, but they have been progressing every week. New quarterback, they've been getting better. This will be a tough one for them to go in to Butte and potentially get a victory over the Ore Diggers. Ore Diggers are going to be tough at home. It's going to be a great one. And then Peru State, we just saw them put 1 million points up on Central Methodist this last week. Benedictine, they continue to have tougher games in the early season. They didn't see it this week against Clark, but this will be a little bit of a test for the Ravens before they get into their half of the Heart Conference and start playing in games that'll count for the Heart South Conference title. Peru State could prove a lot of things this week if they go out and punch the Ravens and give them a challenge, potentially get that upset on the road. So that's why I'm watching this game. Now, it could very well end out that Benedictine wins that game 48-10. I mean, the Ravens are that good. That's why I'm intrigued by this. Is Peru better than what I think, or is Benedictine a lot better than what I think when you compare them to the Perus of the world?
Jason, is Peru State like the biggest enigma of the teams we've seen thus far? Because they go out like Oklahoma Panhandle State, was it 10-7 or something like that? Then they scored 60, 10-9, yeah. 10-9. They scored 60 yesterday. I mean, how is that even possible? Like, it's just, I can't figure them out. So, now they're going to play a top 4 team who deserves to be a top 4 team, but played great football for the last 2 seasons. And I mean, do they have a puncher's chance? In theory, they do, but who's going to show? That's why I want to see. Because they can move the football. They've obviously proven it. And then they can lay an egg and score, 9. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
They're not playing Grandview either in that 10-9 game. It's Oklahoma Panhandle State. They're a nice team, but like, they've given up some points since.
We just saw Panhandle give up 56 points to Ottawa, Arizona at home.
My point exactly. That's my point.
And that's why some people might look at that and go, Jason, what are you talking about? Why are you putting that as a featured game on here? Well, the reason I put it as a featured game is because of the intrigue of it. Like, I don't know what Peru State is this year. Play a top 4 team. Let's see how you do. And I think I might have a little bit better idea. CJ Dixon, 500 yards passing, 100 yards rushing. What's he do this week? What do the Bobcats do? So
they will be tested. I guarantee that.
Absolutely. And like I said, that's just 6 of the games. You can go through the top 25, look at some other potential upsets. There's a lot of great NAIA football being played. And I like the point of the season that we're getting into. We're into week 3, week 4. We're getting into late September. We've got some games under our belt. We're understanding who some of these teams are week over week. And, it gives us a chance to kind of dive into some of the games of the week and really see how they're going to start affecting polls, affecting the NAIA performance index that they're going to be using for the postseason to, kind of help rank some of these teams and their ability to make it to the postseason. We'll probably have a whole show going over the NAIA performance index once that kind of starts coming out and being used to evaluate the teams in the postseason. But any final thoughts on the big games from this?
No, all the ones you highlight, like you said, Jason, I think they all have intrigue, but I guarantee, like we saw yesterday, there's going to be games out of nowhere. It's like, what the heck was that?
Yeah.
It's kind of been that type of season again. All I can draw some type of conclusion for is that there is depth in this affiliation. I've said, a few times now, I think there's more than maybe we even realized that there are quality teams, even outside the top 15 that could really give people a run for their money each and every week. And I think there's tons and tons of parity in the KCAC. I think there's tons of parity in the Mid-South. Not sure about the Mid-States yet. If somebody can challenge Indiana Wesleyan, again, Marion is on the west side, so it's not a conference game this week. And certainly we know that the Frontier is incredibly deep. So it's just one of those things where I think we've got more depth, it seems like, than we've got. And we talked about that before, that there's more depth than there's been in the NAIA in some time, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. No, I 100% agree with you. There's a lot of depth. There's
depth of quality, I should say. Quality.
Yeah. I look at the top 4 to 6 teams in the NAIA saying, oh, really good right now. And then spots 10 through 15. All right. Also pretty good. And then that, through 35, 40 teams right now, in 4 weeks, there's 10 other teams that we could be talking about on a week over week basis who are currently in the top 25 right now. So,
what's Kansas Wesleyan do? What's McPherson do? What does Lindsey Wilson continue to tear? it's quite intriguing. What's going to happen in the Sun Conference? Again, another
Yeah.
deep conference. A lot of really interesting storylines will unfold the next 4 or 5 weeks, I think.
We've given you a full hour of NAIA football, breaking down everything that happened in the last week and looking ahead at the big games for next week. With that said, it is time for overtime. Yes, it's Pat and my favorite segment because, well, frankly, we just talk, and we've had some ideas for this segments now that we're going to talk about a little bit. But our official NAIA talk is done. We want to start inviting in the listener a little bit more to contribute. And Pat kind of had an idea last week, loosely calling it, for the love of the NAIA. We might have to come up, who knows? We might have to come up with something else, for the love of the NAIA. A little story time is what it is, as we give a little bit more about some of the behind the scenes that maybe people don't understand that happens at this level, that happens at the small college football level, whether that be stories from players and athletes. And I had a couple, and these will remain anonymous. Like, we're not going to throw out there, like, who the program is, unless a coach is like, no, you can absolutely say it was us, because I want people to know about it. If you're an athlete and you're giving it to us, we're going to keep it anonymous. But I had one that was direct messaged into me kind of for this subject. And they're talking about, they played in a national championship game. And, there's a lot of, hullabaloo. You're playing against the best team in the NAIA. And I hate to bag on officials, but this one athlete brought up that there was back-to-back plays they had where they ran around the right side, ran out of bounds, and the ball gets spotted on the left hash. And they go, hey, shouldn't that be over there? Oh, yep, sorry. And go place it over there again. All right, next play, guess what? Around the left side, out of bounds. We spotted on the right hash. Hey, fellas, did we get this back to where it is? I think that, I haven't seen that happen at the big Division I level, but I've certainly seen that sort of thing happen in the game. That's the sort of stories that we're looking for. We'll get a little more in depth. But Pat, you and I were talking before the show, and there's two I'd like for you to kind of briefly talk about: baby powder and sandwiches,
soggy subs.
Soggy subs.
All right.
We should back up a little bit. What brought this about was a text conversation that you and I were having about Rio Grande playing Ferris State this week. 77-0. Ferris State. There's running clock in the second half. Like, this is a game that benefited really no one. Credit to Rio for playing in the game, but as a first-year program, playing the number one team in Division II, that is truly the number one team in Division II and a power in Division II right now, just to go up there and get boat raced. So this is what brought us talking about it. Just these situations that, what'd they get? Like, soggy subs and a bus fare out of it to get beat 77-0?
Yeah, Division II budgets aren't crazy either. They could be a part of this conversation too, Division II schools. Trust me. Been around a lot of them. The idea, okay, I'm going to say this, and I am not trying to disparage Rio Grande. I'm not. Great NAIA institution, have been great in a lot of sports. Who scheduled that game?
Mm-hmm.
It's a first-year program against an absolute juggernaut Division II. Getting close to a dynasty Division II level. Yeah. Jason, they are absolute dogs. Bulldogs, Ferris. They are a wagon. They're unbelievable. Yeah. I think if we could take probably our top 3 or 4 best teams and make an all-star team, I'm not sure the NAIA can go beat Ferris State. That's how good they are. And we talk about, our top 5 or 6 would go compete against 12, 14, 15 in Division II, no problem. Grandview could go beat a lot of great Division II teams. I'm not saying that Kaiser would do the same. They ain't beating Ferris. I'm just telling you right now. Yeah. Ferris is darn good, Jason. They have dudes from all over the country. It is above and beyond a Division II program. I'm just going to state that. So, it's one of those things like, okay, administration, you're starting this new program. Who the hell schedules that game?
Yeah.
Like, love NAIA. And you're probably not getting like a huge payday out, like we talked about. You're not going to get even 20, 30 grand out of it. You're going to get literally subs in a hotel, maybe. Yeah,
Yep.
you don't schedule that. So love of the NAI. God bless them. I hope this doesn't set back that program. I'm concerned about that because that's
Yeah.
hard to get over. You get beat like that. It was 35-0 in the first quarter, Jason. I mean, again, it's not a great look. So yeah, for love NAI. Back to positive stuff. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, that was a game I said, yeah, Ferris can name their score in that game. It does remind me a little bit, great Bob Green quote. They played the University of North Dakota, I believe it was. It was circa 2001, 2002, 2003, something like that. Went to the University of North Dakota, got beat like 65-3 or something like that. And one of the reporters after the game said, well, coach, your program came here, you competed, on the bright side, there is a guarantee you do get some money from this game. So, positives that you can build your program on from that. And Bob Green just looks at him and goes, that's kind of like asking Mary Todd Lincoln, other than the shooting, how was the play?
Yeah. Other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. No, you're right. So my story is, and
Yes.
this is from a coaching perspective, the love of the NAI, and I put almost 20 years in the NAI, and I love it. I've been around my whole life. My dad's Kevin Donnelly, who's coached in the NAI my entire life. Had a D2 stint there for a while, but NAI guy. We wear as coaches a lot of hats in the NAI, Jason. So I was basically the director of football operations at a couple different times in my time at the University of St. Francis. Director of football operations in charge of travel, post-game meals, a lot of the detail stuff. Okay, the stuff that really no one else wants to do. Whoever gets that job is, in for one. We were playing Indiana Wesleyan. This is a true story. Playing Indiana Wesleyan. I'm in charge of getting the post-game meal. Subway. Happens to be Subway, right? Yeah. And I have the manager's phone number. We're in contact. Hey, I think the game was at 1:00. Hey, the drop-off's going to be at 3:15. Whatever it is. Go right to the buses, drop the subs off. Your payment's already been made. Just drop about 3:15, find our buses. Give them all the details. Jason, I'm not kidding you. In the middle of the first quarter, my phone is blowing up. I'm trying to call third down in the first quarter of the game. I'm not joking. My phone is blowing up. I'm thinking someone in my family, there's been a tragedy. I'm really concerned. So, we score or get the ball back on whatever it was. Indiana Wesleyan has the ball. So I look at my phone, and it's like 6 different calls. It's the same number. And I'm like, hello? Who is this? Oh, hey, this is so-and-so at Subway. We got your subs for you. We're at the bus. I go, it's supposed to be at 3:15. It's like 1:27.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
They're not going to eat them at halftime, man.
And I'm in the middle of the game. Like, I'm going to text you right now our bus driver's name and number. Please talk to him. He'll arrange the pickup. Of course, we get after the game. We win the game. Luckily, we get back there, and the subs couldn't have been more soggy, Jason. I'm just going to tell you. But it's like, I'm trying to be a football coach. Okay. At the NAI level, we wear a lot of hats. We do a lot of things. I can't tell you all the things that I have done as an NAI football coach, the hats that I have worn, from doing, field maintenance to all the recruiting efforts to study table stuff. I mean, you name it. I mean, cleaning up stuff around the facilities, picking, pulling weeds, and just, you name it, I've done it. But like the director of football operations, I got food delivered. It's like 2 hours early in the middle of the game, and they're just harassing. I'm trying to call the football game. Just, it's a funny story. You want to hear the other one too, or no? Should I save them for next week?
Well, no, maybe let's save baby.
I got a million. I'm gonna start thinking about these over 20 years.
I think anytime I call a story baby powder, that's gonna have people going, what?
It's a little weird. Yeah.
Talking about? Yeah. We're talking about baby powder next
week. I'll give a tease. So spring season of COVID, everything's indoors, Jason.
Yep.
And so let's say we're very, very fortunate at St. Francis to be in Fort Wayne. We've got indoor places, soccer facilities and things of that nature around the area. We don't have it on campus, but we have things in our community. And we would rent out a basically indoor soccer field, and they wouldn't let us paint our lines. So baby powder came in place because it's temporary. And I'll get into the story next week. That's a little bit.
There we go. Everybody, and this is what we want to hear. We want to hear from coaches. We want to hear from players. Give us your crazy stories, of what has happened on the road during practices, during fall check-in, like entire dorms being without AC and having to fix them. I go back to even like when Lindenwood was in the NAIA and they were redoing their stadium, and their coaches were out like in the stadium, with pickaxes, like breaking the railroad ties out so that they could come in and do the concrete there. Just crazy things to think that that's an FCS level school now. And less than 20 years ago, like their coaches were like helping with hay bale pickup. Like that was a thing. They had a farm and they were out having to pick up hay and do chores and stuff like that. I mean, just things like that is what we're looking for. So as you are ready to, divulge those stories to us, we'll keep things anonymous. All you got to do is say, hey, keep this anonymous. We'll keep it anonymous. We just want to have fun in the overtime segment here.
Jason, 5-second quick story and along the lines of what we were talking about. We played Carroll College one time in 2007. We're there. It's colder than all get. -4, no wind chill, just high altitude, cold, right? Mm-hmm. I look over. We're getting ready for pregame. I see Mike Van Diest, the legendary Mike Van Diest.
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer now. Maybe the greatest, one of the greatest coaches of all time at any level. Just awesome and a wonderful person on top of it all.
Yeah.
He's literally shaking out the sideline mat, putting it on the field before the game, the head football coach.
Yeah.
In -4 degree weather. By himself. No one's there to help him. He is literally, the sideline mat. This is the grass field back in those days before Carroll got turf. So it's a grass field. He's putting the mat down because it was so cold. I think he probably had it so it wouldn't freeze up. So he put it out late. He's doing it by himself about 15 minutes before the team comes out for warm-up.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Coach, you need help or something? I was out there, trying to my face. But it was unbelievable. Like, you see Mike Van Diest doing, game day, facility stuff. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's the love of the NAIA, man. That's what we do.
Yeah. These stories, I mean, I think every coach that's been around longer than 10 or 15 years has probably got headset stories. You travel and you have to set, even to this day, it still happens. But back in the day, when you weren't wireless, so you're running cords and cords are getting severed and headsets are going out. And I remember I was at a St. Francis game, and it was the game of the week. It was when we were doing the Marion game. It was St. Francis Marion, and John Thayer and I are calling the game. And early on, maybe the offense wasn't doing as well. I think you guys are still in control of the game, but you weren't doing well. And all of a sudden, we see you coming down to the sideline, from the stands, and John's giving this call, Pat Donnelly, passionate offensive coach. He's going down the sideline to get this offense going because they're not performing the way they should. We talked to you after the game. You're like, yeah, no, our headsets went out. They literally couldn't hear anything that I was saying. So I had to go down to the sideline. It was like, oh, well, what we said sounded like a lot better than just equipment malfunction.
I like your story a lot better. Yeah.
Passionate. Yeah. He's going out. He's going to fire him up.
Jason, I can't tell you, Taylor University had a great press box, but it was so there's no signal in there.
Yeah.
I had to go on top of the press box, on top of the building. It's not like it was fenced in. It was on top of the building. I'm I'm I could plummet to my death, literally. Mm-hmm. But to get a signal, you have to do that, and we didn't have the right equipment to withstand their new press box when they put it in. So the headsets could be a whole story that a whole show.
A lot of those,
segment. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of those old press boxes that were all metal, just all metal on the outside, trying to get any sort of
signal.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, absolutely.
You might as well be on a cell phone calling the sideline.
And we've done that before too. I'm not gonna lie to you. Again, for the love of the NAIA. And again, my idea with this, and again, you have a million of them as well, is there's so many stories like that. The travel stories, Jason. I mean, they're unbelievable, the travel stories. The 2-day trips and staying at hotels at midway point on a playoff game. And that's the things you remember. You remember the games, obviously, but you remember those experiences too. That's what makes it so special. And, being one of the guys, man, you being part of your team. And there's a lot of great stories out there that I would love to hear because I think it's one of the most fascinating things.
Got a user comment here. What's up with Graceland? I think they're a good team. They got a lot of season in front of them. Obviously lost to Benedictine. They won this week. They played Missouri Baptist. They were the better team in that game. Ended up getting suspended at the end due to weather, and then teams just agreed that that was going to be the end of the game. But Graceland looked good in that game. They're a team that I'm still feeling out. They've got a really good wide receiver. Quarterback has been playing really well this year. New head coach and Phil Stabeck, who's been with the program, great offensive mind, now a new young head coach to take over the program. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with Graceland. I'm kind of watching the Yellow Jackets at arm's length to kind of say, all right, where are things going to go this year? I don't want to get too high on them. I'm not going to get too low on them.
Graceland, Peru State, to me, who's going to be that next one, following defending national champions, because I don't think Grandview.
Well, and then you got William Penn now popping up in there.
There you
So
go.
you've got
Absolutely.
William Penn popping into the Heart North. So you got those three teams in the Heart North. Somebody's going to have to prove that they can be a contender, and it's going to come by beating those other two teams that we mentioned, and then competing well against Grandview. And by competing well against Grandview, what I'm talking about is you don't go get beat 28-7, because a 28-7 loss to Grandview might as well be 56-0. I mean,
that's standard. Right.
Yeah.
Standard Grandview score, no doubt.
Yeah, that's what we got.
Give us stories. I want stories.
Yeah. Shoot stories our way. You can DM me on Twitter, send them to me an email. Probably don't put them publicly in the chat, or if you've got questions or ones that you want us to tell. We've got a lot of stories. I could do an entire show on For the Love of the NAIA on the Game of the Week tours from 2009, 2008, whatever year that was.
Hey, Jay, have a good trip, buddy. You'll get back to Nebraska Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy, man. You absolutely could write a book on those stories.
Yeah. Leaving Wise, Virginia at like 6:00 at night to get into Grand Island, Nebraska at like 8:00 the next morning. We could do stories for days on that. And there is a documentary that I've made on that's not public. That is quite entertaining. I should send to you, Pat, sometime that you're.
I'd love to see it. Yeah.
Interesting that here's a nice one from Jimmy. Hey, Jimmy. Hello, Jimmy. Interesting that several D3 schools are being scheduled by NAI programs. I like it. I like the cross-divisional. I would much prefer NAI versus NAI, but I'd like to see when, the other divisions, because there was a number of years there, like you couldn't get a D3 scheduled unless you were an 0-9 team playing Mountain Union, or you were the 10-0 team playing whatever their version of an 0-10 team is there.
Or a guarantee.
Guarantee.
I know we had to pay Division 3s decent money to play. We've had to do that over the years. So I like when the NAI kicks the crap out of the NCAA Division 3. That's what I like.
Yeah, I do.
Madonna last week, baby. Madonna getting it done. Still happy about that one. They're still celebrating.
Got a nice note from their head coach. So as I said back to him, hey man, now you're just an NAI football program. It's got to feel good that you just
absolutely
go do football things now. So that's awesome for them. But yeah, that's pretty much the show. We've gotten to it. Jimmy's response, yes, Pat. We like to see Division 3.
That's all I want to see. We just kick the crap out of them. I love it.
I consider
Pat Coleman, I love it. So
I consider Pat Coleman at d3football.com to be a friend, a colleague, a guy that I've stolen a lot from. But even I told him, like, dude, I want to beat the D3 every time. And he's like, well, yeah, we want to beat the NAI every time. Like, it's just that simple. But
I think the big thing, Jason, is we want to get our loyal listeners, followers, viewers involved, because there are so many great stories. And again, we all love this affiliation. We've got anyone that's been a part of it has stories like that. And I think it's kind of fun to bring them into the fold. These great fans have supported us for now 3 years. I guess the third season. We had like kind of 2.5 years like we've done this stuff officially. So the third season we've done it.
Yeah.
Let's bring some folks in. I'd love to hear their experiences and point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to it. We'll have this segment each and every week as we get stories, or we'll just tell more of them. But I think that does it for this week, Pat. Unless you got anything else that you want to end on.
Another good game, another good group of games. Again, I love the ones that you've highlighted. But again, I guarantee we're going to see some other crazy things happen. Probably west of the Mississippi. It's kind of the way things have gone. Maybe down in Florida. We don't know. There's been some crazy things happening. We talked about it before, like Carroll College, Jason. They're going to knock off somebody else. I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah.
They beat Dickinson. I predicted a couple weeks ago they're going to beat a top-ranked team. They're going to do it again. I'll guarantee it. So there's some great quality depth of this affiliation and teams on the rise. No question about it.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome week. Next week we're back, same time, same channel, 7:00 Eastern, 6:00 Central. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up here for Mr. Pat Donnelly. I'm Jason Dannelly. Check us out each and every week. VictorySportsNetwork.com, top 25 poll out tomorrow. Chips picks coming out on Tuesday. The NAI Around the Nation is going to be on Wednesday. And as always, you can stream all the great NAI coverage live on UrbanEdgeNetwork.com. Just go to UrbanEdgeNetwork.com, see all the schedules, download download the app, get it loaded up on your TV, all your devices, and be watching yourself some NAIA football. For Pat Donnelly, I'm Jason Dannelly. This has been NAIA Football with Dannelly and Donley. We'll see you next week, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, Sunday night, right here on the Victory Sports Network.